Welcome, Sven, to the World Vegan Travel Podcast.
Hello.
I'm really happy to have you here. We have not had anyone on the podcast in all of the episodes talking about Western Australia, which is where you and your business is based and where you offer very, very vegan-friendly travel opportunities. Could you tell us what it is that you do in the vegan travel space?
Yep. So we're a small adventure company based out of Perth, where we operate up and down the West Coast, mostly in Karijini and Perth. So Karijini is our premium products, where we are the only operator that goes into the restricted access canyons, so deeper into the depths of Karijini.
Okay. So can you explain to our listeners what is canyoning?
Yeah. So canyoning on the basic form is moving through an area created by water over time. So you can have a dry canyon, a wet canyon, or a combination thereof. It's called gorges in the US as well, but saying gorging doesn't sound amazing. So canyoning it is. It just depends on where you're from. Gorge, canyon, same. You could potentially break it apart and say one's higher and there's a slight formation difference, but they're the same. In Karijini, if you ever Google it on the official website, it'll say gorges of Karijini. But yeah, they're also canyons. And like I said, we canyon into them. So we use ropes to access, abseil climbing, water slides, and then we spend most of the day in tubes paddling through the gorges and traveling through our trips that we run.
How did you come to create this business?
I didn't reinvent the wheel. So canyoning was happening in Karijini before me. There was an operator up there. The business that was up there sold 3 times. They lived up there and just, I guess, due to politics and just not being busy enough in the off seasons, they did fold. So the third operator that owned the business shut it. And yeah, I didn't want to buy it. So I already had my own business, abseiling in Perth. I just shifted some of what we do up to Karijini. We head up from Perth 3 times a year. We just run the holiday seasons only, where we have the volume of people, and it makes it worth the time. Because yeah, I wouldn't want to live up there permanently.
Right. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about Karijini in a minute, but I'm very curious how you got into this sport, hobby, pastime.
It's not a massively exciting story. Probably 15 years ago, I was traveling Australia again, probably the 3rd time around. I ended up needing a wisdom tooth out. The lady said to me, why don't you go on Centrelink benefits? I didn't want to do that because I was looking for a job. And just at the same time, I had also applied for a job and they needed qualifications I had to study for. I was 35 at the time. I've done a fair bit of study. I really didn't want to go back to study, but just sort of how it came about and then making inquiries for this particular course in outdoor education in the Blue Mountains, it was $51. I was already on the East Coast. So I'd never been on ropes before. I'd certainly loved the outdoors, but hadn't done any of those things. So at 35, I just enrolled. And a year later, I worked in the Blue Mountains for some people and then worked my way through the industry, then came over to Karijini, working for somebody else. And then, set my business up shortly thereafter, 2014. And then, in Karijini, I think we're in our 6th year at the moment. So Karijini, it's about the 5th or 6th year. I have to double check that since the last person was there.
I mean, I'm so curious as to what inspired you to move all the way from the East Coast. Obviously, the Blue Mountains is beautiful and famous and it's close to a big city. And I think Karijini is quite far from Perth, which in itself is such an isolated city.
So 33 years ago, with a girl I was traveling with, I fell in love with it back then. I actually didn't know about Karijini. A lot of West Australians actually don't. It is Western Australia's second largest national park. It is by far probably the most popular next to Kakadu. That's pretty well known. Yeah, I was looking for another job at the time from the East Coast. This came up, that there was a job offer. I just drove my camper van over and started working for this guy. And then in the course of working for him, I met somebody and then ended up back in Perth. I set my business up in that time when the relationship folded. Being a bit older, I thought I'd try and do the adult thing. I had spent a fair bit of time traveling. I'm not a big fan of adulting, but, it's kind of the required thing, I guess. So I decided to stay on one spot, and I have been now since 2014, which is rather a strange thing to say. That's 12 years. But yeah,
it's pretty wild.
It's a unique position that we're the only ones in a space. It's not big enough for 2 operators. It's always just been one. And look, I can only hope it stays that way because we would both suffer and we'd have to outcompete each other until whoever runs out of money first. It wouldn't work.
Let's talk about Karijini National Park. I have never heard of Karijini National Park before. Like, where is it located? Apart from canyons, what are the features? Yep. How do people get there?
Yep. So it's about 1,400 kilometres up north in the Pilbara, which it's a bit of a mixed bag. So the Pilbara, unfortunately, is well known for iron ore mining. So there is a lot of crossovers, between tourism and mining, unfortunately. People either drive up, generally on a road trip, so they would head up normally the coast, or they would come from across the top and they would either do Coral Bay, Exmouth on the way up, maybe Kalbarri, just depending on where they stop, and then head across to Karijini or go the other way where they come from across the top via Baroom and then go to the coast. So there are tour buses that do those routes and then people drive themselves. Or they fly up. So for our multi-day trips, we encourage people to fly. We don't include flights, but we do pick them up from the airport. And it's about an hour and a half flight from Perth.
Fantastic. Could you maybe explain to our listeners the kinds of services that you operate? Then maybe we can talk about one of your favourite trips in more detail.
On the website, you'll see we offer bushwalking as well. It's not something I do a lot of. I try and stay in my own lane, so we specialise in roping for the tourist market. We do work occasionally with schools, but it's not something I chase. I'd probably say we are the only operator in Perth that still does the tourist market, where the other operators that do stuff concentrate on schools. So I mainly work in the tourist market, offer abseiling, climbing, and then canyoning and Karijini for the most part. We are also a nationally recognised training provider, so I do offer nationally recognised training. I don't do that for money. I actually do it out of frustration. In our market, it gets interesting that we don't get checked, which is good and bad if you do the right thing, because then you don't have to put up with being checked. What's bad about it, there are a lot of cowboys out there. I had a few interesting experiences when I was working for people when I came from the East Coast. I set my business up out of frustration. So running a business is definitely the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's also the most rewarding. I came home one day after a kid fell 2 meters when somebody I was working with didn't tie a knot. Now, the kid was luckily okay, but the way the school and my boss dealt with it, I thought was pretty disgusting. So I said, I'm not doing this anymore because, being the lead guide on a project, you get hauled into court. As much as you can point the finger back and say, well, I'm not the employer, I still have a responsibility. I don't ever want to be in that position. So I set my business up out of frustration. And then I guess on top of that, again, just seeing not much training that was to the standard that I sought out, working with registered training organisations on the East Coast that I wanted to work with. So I work with one at the moment that's run by ex-SAS soldiers. So, that works really well. I do it mainly, two reasons. One, to get my own staff. So if I can get somebody who their head on their shoulder and cares about things and that attention to detail, because I don't have the time to teach you that. I can teach you how to tie a rope. So I look for those sorts of people, generally older, because that's generally our clientele as well. And I will train you, So depending on the situation, I used to offer it for free, but it's bitten me a few times. I don't have full-time staff. I've got a few casual staff. They're friends as well. So I have given them things for free.
Right. I will say I'm full of admiration for providers like yourself as a fellow sort of tour operator.
100%. So once someone's on my rope, I'm not worried. If I have touched my rope, you are very safe. My concern with the clients I take out is the walking around by themselves. That's my biggest concern.
Falling down a canyon or
falling over, not following instructions.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a fallacy in our industry because the fear of falling is such an intrinsic fear in humans, being up high. But if you rationalize and actually look at the equipment, if you use it properly, it is way safer than driving a car. It is way safer than flying. And it's way safer than just going for a hike by yourself.
Riding a bike.
And riding a bike, because I got hit by a bike.
I will say that in the past we have worked with really good, reputable bike companies to provide activities for our tours, and we vetted them and everything was great. Just one of our travellers just kind of had a little bit of a panic. She was fine, but she could have ended up crashing into a car. And after that, I was just like, no, Biking is just too terrifying.
I don't have it on my insurance because the premium would go through the roof. So horse riding and riding bikes and water activities are actually the most dangerous and most expensive insurable things. So horse riding is number one, but biking, because more people ride bikes, I think goes up in volume. And then water activities. My insurance company will do them. I don't have them for that reason. I wouldn't take it on.
Right.
I've got no control, and once you're on your bike, you're gone. So I don't want to do it. I just don't want to do it. Yeah.
Fair enough. Why don't you dig deep and tell us about like your most signature tour that you offer?
Yeah. So I guess there's two places what we're sort of known for. One is Perth for twilight abseiling. So we were an operator that started that, as far as I could tell, the only one in Australia, and potentially at the moment still the only one. A friend of mine copied it in Brisbane for a bit, and that's fine, it was Brisbane. But I don't think anyone else is really doing that. We started about 4 o'clock in summer. We go till about 10 o'clock and we abseil in the daytime, sunset, and at nighttime. And then we serve vegan pizzas, vegan bliss balls, coffee, tea, juice, and or cordial, just depending on what I've got at the time. So it's about a 6-hour experience, about an hour from Perth, overlooking the city. So you get sunsets over Perth, which is kind of cool. That has been my bread and butter, but over the years, I am sort of shifting it towards Karijini. So that would be the next thing. That's then obviously in the Pilbara. We run single-day trips, which are bookable once you're there, where we do nothing but meet you at the canyon and you provide everything. With that, we don't do food. It's just logistically too difficult to do it. We used to get the Eco Tree to make us vegan wraps, but they were super hit and miss. So from a quality perspective, I couldn't justify it. And then the other thing is our multi-day trips. Now, unfortunately, we are not allowed from the Eco Tree to be 100% vegan with that at the moment. But as a vegan traveler, you can certainly request that. They have vegan options on the menu. And if I get enough of them, depending on the head chef, I can twist their arm and they will do more. So it's a bit of a challenge with us. When I first started running them, we've had some good chefs that were really open to it, and they actually really enjoyed doing something different. So they actually enjoyed making up, menus, and it was great. So we do lunches for the clients for that window. We do vegan snacks, chocolate, all that stuff. The breakfast is optioned, so you choose. It's a buffet type breakfast, so you can choose vegan options. They are available. And then for dinner, there is vegan options on the menu, but I would love to say it is a vegan trip. But unfortunately, we can't. I would love to. The other thing, I guess, it's sporadic, but we have run long table vegan dinners, like 5-course dinners with abseiling. Oh. So my partner has catered those, but she's got a full-time job. So she actually did a vegan cooking course online with the Future Food Institute. They have shut their doors since then. She's pretty good at what she does. She often caters our training days for the 5 and the 8-day adventures as well. I guess the passion there for me is just to show people that we don't just eat lettuce. We make all our own cheeses from scratch, crackers from scratch, breads from scratch. And yes, you can buy stuff as substitutes, but, if you make it yourself and understand where your food comes from, that's obviously another level.
Right, of course. And what is a typical day like when you are doing the 8-day tour? I mean, 8 days of canyoning seems like a huge amount.
Yeah, so everything we do, and even getting up there, it's still canyoning, so to speak. Like I said to you, canyon in the process of naming it is moving through any area of Karijini water over time. So even the public access to canyoning, but we only do 3 restricted canyons. So they're the abseiling ones that go deeper. But we basically layer it up. So what we normally do, we do a restricted canyon to start. That's your big hello, welcome to Karijini wow factor. Then we do a non-class 6 canyon. So the 8 days that you're there, it's 6 days of full activity. The last day sometimes has activity depending on flights. Otherwise, it's straight home. So you do 3 restricted canyons and 3 non-restricted canyons, which gives you the entirety of the park. So you get everything that everyone else sees and then the other stuff that you can only see with us. So we mix it up with a hard day, easier day, hard day, easier day, hard day, easier day. That sort of breaks. Yeah.
Fabulous. And who are your typical clients?
Generally female, about 85+%.
Oh, really?
Yep, definitely. 45 to 55, 60. My personal theory on that in Australia specifically, because we mainly get Australians. Australia has very much a macho culture. So if you're a bloke, you don't want to ever put yourself in a position where, you can be seen to be scared of something. I've had some interesting scenarios. We've had guys rock up They're scared. That's my personal take on that. Women, they will drag their partners, their kids along. We do get guys dragging their kids along, but generally it's women that book it. They're also more in Australia, at least what I have seen over the 14 years that I've been around, 12 years, sorry. But they're more the ones that would do the booking, and do all of that stuff in the background. So for our multi-day trips, it's pretty much always been mainly women. We have to do twin share because we can't offer single accommodation. It just becomes super untenable. Like the price has to go up by an extra $2,000, which is nuts.
Wow.
Which is insane.
And how large is a typical group size?
So for the multi-day trips, generally we cap it at 10. In saying that, we have run, currently not on the website, but maybe again soon, the yoga and canyoning trips. We have tried to run a Pilates and canyoning trip. We have tried to run an art and painting and canyoning trip. That one did not succeed. We do run photography trips as well. Now, why I say this, the group size varies. So if we do a yoga trip, and I'm looking at reinitiating that, I just had a meeting with a yoga teacher yesterday, we can go up to 20. So how that then works, we run 2 groups of 10 and they cross over. So on the class 6 day or the restricted day, myself and a guide take 10 people. The yoga teacher takes the other 10 just to do the more casual stuff, and then they swap. So those sizes can vary. For day trips, if I have enough guides, the max we take, and I know this might sound a bit ridiculous, but in the canyon you can spread out. The max we take is 24. So we have a 1-to-8 ratio.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's 1-to-8. So generally 16 is our cap. But if we get teams in for team building, we run a specific trip for that, or we get a large group. So as long as we can find a way to mitigate the wait time, we often split the group. Once they're in the canyon itself, because Karijini is a very open canyon, so you're about 100 meters down and you've got lots of space, people can spread out. The bottlenecking for us only happens on the in and on some of the out, depending on which canyon. As long as we can manage that, it's not as bad as you might think. And I guess our reviews speak for themselves. We don't do a lot of 24 though, so generally it's 16.
Okay. And I'm very curious, have there been any travellers or guests that you have had that have overcome particular fears or have had some sort of transformative experience through doing a trip with you?
Transformative experience, I can't actually speak to that. People may say that. It is some of the oldest naturally exposed rock on the planet. So geologically, some of the rocks are 2.2 billion years old. So incredibly old.
Right. You are based in Western Australia now. Where do you see your business in 5 years from now?
I would love to do something in Tassie. And then, I would love to take it overseas. But the problem with, I guess, what we do is licenses and insurance. I have to work with operators and I have to trust them so that I don't feel, that I'm lowering the standards we have. And I also want to have somewhat of a hand in, I guess. And I don't ever want to step on the other owner's toes. But if it's obviously dangerous, then yes, I will. That's my biggest challenge, why I haven't expanded as far as I would like. And then the other reason, I guess, is just selling it.
One thought that I have is, a lot more tourists come to the Blue Mountains, international tourists come to the Blue Mountains maybe than Karijini, so you never know. So how is it that listeners, most of my listeners are international, mostly from North America, and I've never been to Western Australia, but I know that it is a very beautiful place and people should definitely make the effort to get out there if they have the opportunity, if they come to Australia. So how is it that people can learn more about the offerings that you have, the times of year and the pricing, etc., and to find out if they might be a good fit for one of your tours?
The business is Space Chameleon Adventure Co., but if you Google Karijini Canyoning, we're the only ones that come up. So you'll be able to find us that way. Jump on the website, have a look under the adventures, what we offer, whether that fits with you. Give me a call, pick a time and we can have a chat. So for me, it's more about building relationships. I really feel as a tourism industry, we don't need a third party. Like if we worked together and shared our resources and our people with a like-minded thing and build a community, I can pick up the phone and ring somebody and say, hey, what do you think? That for me works way better. And it keeps it more personal. Because then you get to choose who you work with rather than somebody put together an itinerary that you have no control over. That's the other thing as well.
Sure. Understood. Okay, well, Sven, it was so lovely to chat with you today, and I'm so inspired to come to Western Australia because I have never been, despite spending many years in Australia myself. I love being out in nature and trying new things, whitewater rafting or more physical things, so I will definitely be looking you up. Please tell us one more time how people can find you and all of your Instagram handles and all of those things, if you do those things.
I do. I'm not massively active on social media. Space Chameleon is the business. So if you Google Space Chameleon, it's one word. So SPACE as in space. Chameleon like the animal without the I. A lot of Australians want to put an I in there. CHAMELEON, one word. We're the only ones in the world as far as I can tell. So you Google that. That's the same on Facebook. It's the same on Insta. It's the same on LinkedIn. And you'll find our website. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Abseiling Perth would tend to come up as well. And then Karijini canyoning, obviously, would come up as well. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you so much.
Always. You're very welcome. Thanks, buddy.